The Veteran and Johnny Cash's Hidden Fortune. Marcus Riley paid just $500 for Johnny Cash's rusty trailer. His own brother laughed in his face, calling him a fool. But when Marcus discovered the secret compartment welded beneath the floorboards, he realized he'd inherited $175 million and a conspiracy that powerful people would kill to keep buried. Marcus was 37 years old, a former Army medic dishonorably discharged after an incident in Afghanistan that nobody wanted to talk about. The official record said misconduct. The truth was he'd refused to falsify medical reports to cover up friendly fire deaths. Now he worked night shifts at a 24-hour diner off Route 40, coming home at 6 a.m. to his 9-year-old daughter Sophie, who'd ask why Daddy smelled like old coffee and burnt bacon. His bank account showed $287. His rent was $950, due in 6 days. Sophie's school had sent 3 letters about unpaid lunch fees totaling $340. His ex-wife Denise had married a real estate developer and kept texting photos of their new boat, their vacation in Aruba, their golden retriever puppy that cost more than Marcus made in a month. She'd stopped taking his calls about visitation. Her lawyer sent letters on cream-colored paper that smelled like money. Marcus's hands shook when he opened the bills. Electric company threatening disconnection. Medical debt from Sophie's broken arm last year, $11,400 still outstanding. The collection agency called during dinner, during Sophie's homework time, during the precious 2 hours before her bedtime when they'd watch old cartoons together on a laptop with a cracked screen. "Daddy, are we poor?" Sophie had asked last week, her small voice cutting through the laugh track of a Looney Tunes episode. Marcus had pulled her close, breathing in the strawberry scent of her dollar store shampoo. "We're rich in the things that matter, baby girl." But rent didn't accept hugs as payment. The call came on a Tuesday morning. Marcus was sleeping after his shift when his phone buzzed with an unknown Tennessee number. A lawyer named Patricia Hendricks, her voice formal and distant, explained that his uncle Roger had died 3 months ago. Roger Riley, his mother's brother, the family embarrassment who'd worked as a roadie for country music tours in the 1970s and 80s. The man Marcus had met exactly twice at childhood family reunions, both times finding him drunk and rambling about the old days. "Your uncle left you his estate," Patricia said. Marcus sat up in bed. "Estate? Roger lived in a trailer park." "Yes, the trailer and its contents are yours. We've been trying to reach you for weeks, but your phone was disconnected." That was true. Marcus had let it lapse for 2 months, only reactivating it last week with a prepaid card. "What's it worth?" Marcus asked, already calculating. "Maybe $2,000? Enough for rent and Sophie's school fees?" Patricia's pause lasted too long. "The trailer itself appraised at approximately $500. It's a 1978 model, quite deteriorated. However, you should come assess the contents yourself. Your uncle was very specific that you, and only you, should receive everything." Marcus's brother Derek called that evening. Derek, who worked in finance, who'd paid for their mother's funeral and never let Marcus forget it. Derek, who told him at that funeral that joining the army was for losers who couldn't make it in the real world. "You actually driving to Tennessee for Roger's garbage?" Derek's laugh was sharp. "That rusty piece of shit trailer? I saw photos from the estate lawyer. It's falling apart, Marcus. Probably full of Roger's old beer cans and pornography. Just sign it over to me. I'll handle the disposal. Split whatever we get 50-50. Why would you want it if it's worthless?" Another pause. "Family sentiment. Mom would have wanted me to handle it properly." Marcus thought about their mother, who died when he was 23 and Derek was 26. She'd loved her brother Roger despite his problems. Used to, send him money every Christmas that their father forbade her from sending. "I'll drive out there myself," Marcus said. Derek's voice changed. "Don't be stupid. You can't afford the gas. That's a 9-hour drive." "I'll manage." "Marcus, I'm trying to help you." "That trailer isn't worth—" Marcus hung up. His hands were shaking again, but not from fear this time. He borrowed $80 from his neighbor, Mrs. Chen, an elderly woman who sometimes watched Sophie when Marcus's shifts ran late. He told Sophie they were taking a road trip, an adventure. Her eyes lit up. She'd never been out of Pennsylvania. They left on Saturday morning in Marcus's 2004 Honda Civic with 187,000 miles, the check engine light glowing like a promise of disaster. Sophie brought her stuffed elephant, Mr. Trunks, and a plastic bag of animal crackers. Marcus brought his army duffel bag, his phone charger, and a baseball bat from his high school days, stored under the driver's seat. He didn't know why he brought the bat, just a feeling. The trailer park was outside Nashville, a sprawling collection of mobile homes in various states of decay. Rogers sat at the far end, number 47, partially hidden behind a copse of dying pine trees. The trailer was worse than Marcus expected. Rust bloomed across its white aluminum shell like a disease. One window was broken, covered with cardboard and duct tape. The small wooden porch had collapsed on one side, the steps hanging at a drunken angle. "This is Uncle Roger's house?" Sophie whispered. "It was," Marcus said. "Come on." The smell hit them first when he opened the door. Mold, decay, stale cigarette smoke layered on decades of living. But underneath that, something else. Old leather. Dust, a faint trace of cologne that reminded Marcus of his grandfather. The interior was a time capsule from 1985. Wood paneling covered the walls. A small TV with rabbit ear antennae sat on a folding table. The kitchen was barely functional, the sink stained brown. But the trailer was packed with stuff. Boxes everywhere, stacked floor to ceiling. Old tour posters on the walls, some torn, some faded. Marcus saw names he recognized. Johnny Cash, Waylon Jennings, Willie Nelson, June Carter Cash. Sophie stayed close to his side as they explored. 2 tiny bedrooms, a bathroom with a shower stall that had probably never been clean. The main living area was dominated by those boxes. Marcus opened one. Old magazines. Another held vinyl records. A third was full of clothing, fabric musty and moth-eaten. "Why did Uncle Roger have all this?" Sophie asked. "He worked on music tours, baby. Probably kept souvenirs." But something felt wrong. Marcus had seen hoarder houses before, places where people accumulated junk because they couldn't let go. This wasn't that. These boxes were organized, labeled in Roger's shaky handwriting. Cash Tour, 1982. Folsom Prison Anniversary. Studio Sessions. In the smaller bedroom, Marcus found photo albums. He opened one carefully. Pictures of young Roger. Healthier, smiling, standing next to a tall man in black. Johnny Cash's face was unmistakable. That craggy expression, those deep-set eyes. Roger with his arm around Cash's shoulders. Roger holding a guitar. Cash laughing at something off camera. "Who's that?" Sophie pointed at Cash. "Someone very famous who made music," Marcus said. His heart was beating faster. He spent an hour going through boxes while Sophie colored in her notebook. Old tour schedules, backstage, passes, set lists handwritten on hotel stationery, a pair of worn boots with JC written inside, letters, dozens of letters, some from June Carter Cash, some from record executives, some from fans. Everything carefully preserved, organized by year. Marcus was starting to understand that his uncle hadn't been a drunk who kept junk. Roger had been an archivist, a guardian of history. But why? And why leave it to Marcus, who he barely knew? The second bedroom's closet was locked. Marcus tried the door several times, but it held firm. He searched the trailer for a key, finding dozens in a drawer, trying each one. Nothing worked. Sophie had fallen asleep on the ancient couch, Mr. Trunks clutched to her chest. Marcus covered her with his jacket. He was exhausted, his back aching from hunching over boxes. But he couldn't sleep. He sat in Roger's recliner, the fabric torn and leaking stuffing, and stared at the locked closet door. His phone buzzed. Derek again. He ignored it. At 2 a.m., Marcus gave up on subtlety. He found a crowbar in a utility closet and pried open the bedroom closet door. The wood splintered easily, the lock old and weak. Inside, more boxes, but these were different. Newer plastic storage containers with tight seals. Marcus pulled one out, set it on the floor, opened it. Documents, legal documents, recording contracts, publishing agreements, all bearing Johnny Cash's signature. Marcus's hands trembled as he lifted each page carefully. These weren't copies. These were originals. The second box held master recordings, reel-to-reel tapes in pristine condition, each labeled in neat handwriting. Johnny Cash, unreleased sessions, 1969. Sun Studio outtakes, 1955. Prison concerts, complete recordings. The third box made Marcus stop breathing. It was full of cash, actual money, bundled stacks of $100 bills, old but preserved. He counted quickly. $50,000 in cash, maybe more, but it was the fourth box that changed everything. Inside was a metal case, heavy and locked with a combination lock. Marcus stared at it, his mind racing. He tried obvious combinations. Roger's birthday, his mother's birthday. Nothing worked. Then he remembered the photo album, a picture of Roger holding a sign that said JC 2632, Johnny Cash's initials and numbers. He tried 2632. The lock clicked open. Inside the case were documents that made Marcus's military training kick in. He recognized classified markings, government seals, CIA letterhead, letters, addressed to Johnny Cash from people Marcus had only read about in history books, politicians, intelligence officers, foreign dignitaries, and photographs. Dozens of photographs showing Cash at locations that didn't match his public biography. Cash in what looked like Vietnam, but not performing. Cash in a suit, shaking hands with men in military uniforms. Cash in an office with maps spread across a desk. At the bottom of the case was a letter, sealed in plastic, addressed to whoever finds this. Marcus opened it with shaking hands. Roger's handwriting, shaky but legible, dated just 4 months before his death. To my nephew Marcus, because you're the only one who understands what it means to be punished for telling the truth. Johnny Cash wasn't just a singer. From 1968 to 1983, he worked with CIA operations in Southeast Asia and Central America, using his concerts as cover for intelligence work. He did it because they threatened to destroy his career and his family if he refused. He did it because they promised it would save American lives. Some of it did. Some of it was terrible things he could never talk about. When he tried to stop, they reminded him what they could take away. The evidence in this trailer proves everything. It's worth a fortune, not just in money, but in truth. But powerful people don't want this truth known. Johnny's family doesn't know. The government has tried to find these documents for 40 years. I kept them because Johnny asked me to. Made me promise that if anything happened to him, someone would know the real story. He died with secrets that ate him alive. You'll have to decide what to do with this. But know that the moment you reveal it, you become a target. I'm sorry to give you this burden, but I couldn't let it die with me. Your Uncle Roger. Marcus read the letter 3 times. His hands weren't shaking anymore. They were steady, the way they used to be in the field hospital when a soldier's life depended on his precision. He looked at Sophie sleeping on the couch, her small chest rising and falling. Then he looked at the documents spread around him. He thought about what Roger had written, what it meant to be punished for telling the truth. His phone buzzed again. Derek, Marcus answered. Finally, Derek said. Listen, I've been thinking about Roger's trailer. I'll give you $5,000 for everything in it, sight unseen. You can use that money, right? Get caught up on bills. How do you know what I need? Money for? Come on, Marcus. Everyone knows you're broke. This is a good offer for a trailer full of junk. What if it's not junk? Silence on the line. Then Derek's voice changed, became harder. What did you find? Nothing much. Old tour posters, some vintage clothes. Why? Marcus, listen to me carefully. If you found anything at all that seems valuable or important, you need to tell me right now. There are people who've been looking for Roger's collection. People who'll pay real money. What people? Just people I know. Collectors. I may have mentioned to a few folks that you were inheriting Roger's estate. They're very interested. Marcus felt ice in his stomach. You told people before I even got here? It's called networking, Marcus. Trying to help you out. Look, I'll come up to $10,000. Final offer. For a trailer you said was worthless? Don't be stupid. Take the money. Marcus hung up. He sat in the darkness of Roger's trailer, listening to Sophie breathe, feeling the weight of decisions pressing down on him. His phone buzzed with texts. Derek calling back. Then a number he didn't recognize. Then another. At 3 a.m., he carefully packed everything back into the boxes, moved them to his car. It took 6 trips, his bad knee screaming with each load. The metal case went in last, hidden under Sophie's car seat, wrapped in her spare clothes. They left the trailer park as the sun rose. Sophie woke up as they hit the highway, confused about why they were leaving so early. Did we find treasure, Daddy? Marcus looked at her in the rearview mirror, her sleepy eyes, her messy hair. Yeah, baby, we found something important. Are we rich now? I don't know yet, but things are going to change. They drove north, but not toward Pennsylvania. Marcus's mind was working through possibilities, threats, options. If Derek knew people were looking for Roger's collection, those people would come to Marcus's apartment. They'd come to Sophie's school. They'd come anywhere Marcus was supposed to be. He needed help. He needed someone who understood what he'd found and what it meant. He thought about the documents, the government seals, the classified markings. He thought about his discharge, the lies they'd told, the way the truth got buried when it was inconvenient. There was a journalist he'd contacted during his discharge proceedings, a woman named Sarah Chen who worked for the Washington Post. She'd wanted to tell his story, but his lawyer had advised him to stay quiet, not make waves. Marcus had regretted that silence ever since. He found a rest stop near Harrisburg and used the payphone, not wanting to use his cell. He still remembered Sarah's number from her business card, kept in his wallet for 2 years. She answered on the third ring. Chen, Ms. Chen, this is Marcus Riley, the army medic from the Afghanistan story. I don't know if you remember. I remember. What's wrong? I found something big, about Johnny Cash and the CIA. I have documents, recordings, evidence of intelligence operations that were never declassified, and people are already trying to get it from me. Silence. Then, where are you right now? Pennsylvania, heading north. Do you trust me? Marcus thought about that. Trust was hard, but Sarah had believed him when his own command hadn't. Yes, drive to New York. I'll meet you at the Fairfield Inn in Mount Vernon. Don't use credit cards. Don't tell anyone where you're going. And, Marcus, if you're telling me the truth about what you have, you need to understand that powerful people will not want this story told. I understand. Do you? Because this isn't just about the money or the history. If Cash was working with intelligence services, and if he documented things they wanted kept secret, they'll come for those documents. They'll come hard. Then I better move fast. Marcus drove. Sophie sensed his tension and stayed quiet, coloring in her notebook. They stopped at a McDonald's, the first time in months Marcus had bought her a Happy Meal. She beamed at the cheap toy, a plastic unicorn that lit up when you pressed its back. His phone exploded with calls. Derek. Unknown numbers. A voicemail from someone claiming to be a collector who'd heard about Roger's estate and wanted to make an immediate offer of $25,000. Another voicemail from a lawyer representing interested parties who were prepared to go to $50,000. The numbers kept rising. By the time they reached New York, someone had offered $200,000 for the trailer's contents. No questions asked. Marcus deleted all the messages. Sarah Chen met them at the hotel. She was in her 40s, sharp-eyed, wearing jeans and a leather jacket. She looked at Sophie, and her expression softened. This your daughter? Sophie, this is Ms. Chen. She's a friend. Sarah knelt down. Hi, Sophie. I bet you're tired. There's a really good TV in your room, and I brought coloring books. Sound good? Sophie nodded. Shyly. They got 2 adjoining rooms. Sarah sat with Sophie for 20 minutes, getting her comfortable, turning on cartoons. Then she joined Marcus in his room and locked the door. Show me. Marcus opened the metal case. He watched Sarah's face as she went through the documents, her expression shifting from interest to shock to what looked like fear. Jesus Christ, she whispered. This is real. These are actual classified documents. Do you understand what you have? Roger's letter said it's worth a fortune. It's worth more than money, Marcus. This rewrites history. Johnny Cash working with the CIA, using concert tours as cover for operations. If this is authentic, and it looks authentic, this is one of the biggest stories of the century. But it's also incredibly dangerous. People are already offering me hundreds of thousands. Those aren't collectors, Marcus. Those are cleaners. People whose job is to make documents like this disappear. The money is real. They'll pay it. But the moment you hand over these documents, you become a liability. You and anyone who knows what you had. Marcus felt his chest tighten. Sophie, exactly. You can't give this to them. But you can't just keep it either. The only way you're safe is if this becomes public. If everyone knows, there's no point in silencing you. How do we do that? Sarah smiled grimly. We publish everything. The Post will run the story. We'll coordinate with other outlets, release the documents simultaneously so they can't suppress it. But we need to move fast, and we need to verify everything first. How long? A week. Maybe less if I can get senior editors on board immediately. Can you disappear for a week? Marcus thought about his apartment, his job, his life. All of it seemed distant now, like it belonged to someone else. Yeah, I can disappear. They worked through the night. Sarah brought in a colleague, a historian who specialized in Cold War intelligence operations. They photographed documents, verified signatures, traced dates against known events. Sophie slept in the other room, while adults around her pieced together a conspiracy 40 years old. The historian, Dr. Robert Kwan, was a thin man with wire-rimmed glasses who kept muttering "remarkable" and "unprecedented" as he examined each document. This changes everything we know about cultural diplomacy during the Cold War, he said. Cash wasn't just performing for troops. He was gathering intelligence, meeting with assets, even facilitating operations, and he kept records of everything. Why would he do that? Marcus asked. Insurance, Dr. Kwan said. The CIA used him, probably threatened him, but he was smart enough to document everything so they couldn't deny his involvement or throw him under the bus if operations went bad. It's actually brilliant. They couldn't touch him without admitting what they'd done. Until he died, Sarah said quietly. Then the race was on to recover the evidence. And Roger kept it hidden for 20 years, Marcus added. The next morning, Derek showed up at the hotel. Marcus watched from the window as his brother talked to the front desk, showing a photo of Marcus, asking questions. The desk clerk shook her head. Derek's face went red. How did he find us? Marcus asked. Sarah looked grim. He probably called every hotel in a 100-mile radius. Or someone's tracking your phone. Marcus threw his phone in the toilet, destroyed it. Sarah gave him a burner. Phone, pre-programmed with only her number and one for emergency services. They moved to a different hotel that afternoon, then another the next day. Sophie thought it was an adventure, a game of hiding. Marcus wished he could protect her innocence. On the third day, the offers reached $750,000. A message came through to Sarah's email, sent to her public post address. It was professional, polite, terrifying. Ms. Chen, we understand you're working with Marcus Riley on a potential story. We represent interests that would prefer these materials remain private. We're prepared to offer $750,000 for all documents and recordings, plus guaranteed employment for Mr. Riley at $150,000 annually. We believe this is more than fair compensation. Please respond within 24 hours. Failure to respond will be considered a hostile act. Sarah read it aloud. Marcus felt his hands go cold. Who are they? Could be anyone. Private intelligence contractors, corporate security, maybe even people still in government who don't want this coming out. The threat's real, though. What happens if we don't respond? They escalate. Probably start with legal threats, maybe criminal charges based on possession of classified material. Then they'll get creative. Dr. Kwan looked up from his laptop. I finished the timeline. Marcus, your Uncle Roger, and Johnny Cash were protecting something bigger than just Cash's reputation. 3 operations Cash was involved with resulted in civilian deaths, including children. The documents show Cash tried to stop participating, and that's when things got ugly. They threatened his family, threatened to expose drug use, threatened his career. He kept working with them but started documenting everything. When he died, Roger inherited his insurance policy. So publishing this makes us heroes or villains? Marcus asked. Both, Sarah said. We expose CIA wrongdoing and historical truth, but we also tarnish the legacy of one of America's most beloved musicians. What would Cash want? Dr. Kwan pulled out one of the letters from the archive, this one in Cash's own handwriting, dated 1998. He wrote this to Roger. Listen, if anything happens to me, if they come for you, you do what you think is right. I'm tired of lies, Roger. I've carried them so long that they've become part of me, but lies don't save souls. Only truth does that, even when it hurts. I think Cash would want the truth told. They spent 4 days verifying everything. Sarah brought in. Document experts had handwriting analyzed, confirmed dates against public records. Everything checked out. The story was real. On the 5th day, Sophie was playing in the hotel courtyard while Marcus watched from a bench nearby. A woman approached, middle-aged, expensive clothes, kind smile. She sat down next to Sophie. "What a pretty unicorn," the woman said, pointing at Sophie's Happy Meal toy. Sophie smiled shyly. "You know, I have a granddaughter about your age. She loves unicorns too." Marcus was already moving, his army training kicking in. Something about the woman's posture, the way her eyes scanned the courtyard, the practiced nature of her smile. He was 10 feet away when the woman said, "Your daddy found something very important, didn't he?" Marcus grabbed Sophie, pulled her away. The woman stood, her smile gone. "Mr. Riley, we're not here to hurt anyone. We just want to talk. The offer is now $900,000. You could give your daughter everything she deserves. Stay away from my family." 2 men appeared from the parking lot, moving to flank them. Marcus backed toward the hotel entrance, Sophie clutched in his arms. "You're making this difficult," the woman said. "Those documents belong to people who have legitimate reasons to keep them private. National security reasons. If it's legitimate, why are you threatening a 9-year-old? We haven't threatened anyone. We're making a generous offer. But Mr. Riley, there are other parties looking for those documents. Parties who won't be as polite as we are. You're in over your head." Marcus reached the hotel entrance. Sarah was already there, her phone out, recording everything. "This is harassment," Sarah said loudly. "I have your faces on camera. I have witnesses. If anything happens to Marcus Riley or his daughter, this video goes public along with every document we have." The woman looked at Sarah, recognition dawning. "Ms. Chen, the Washington Post. So it's true then. You're planning to publish?" "Damn. Right we are. Front page, Sunday edition. Full document dump online. Every major outlet gets copies. You can't stop this." The woman's expression hardened. "You're making a mistake. All of you." She walked away, the 2 men following. Marcus carried Sophie inside, his heart hammering. That night, they finalized the story. Sarah's editor had approved full publication with support from the Post's legal team. Dr. Kwan had written a companion piece, providing historical context. 3 other newspapers agreed to publish simultaneously to prevent suppression. "We go live Sunday morning," Sarah said. "That's 3 days. Can you hold out 3 more days?" Marcus looked at Sophie sleeping in the hotel bed, Mr. Trunks tucked under her arm. "Yeah, we can hold out." The next 2 days blurred together. More hotel changes, more threatening messages. An attempt to hack Sarah's email that their IT security caught and traced back to a server farm in Virginia. Derek sent a tearful voicemail, begging Marcus to reconsider, saying people had threatened him too, saying this was bigger than both of them. On Saturday night, 12 hours before publication, they moved to Sarah's editor's house in Georgetown. The editor, James Walsh, was a grizzled veteran of investigative journalism who'd broken Watergate follow-up stories in the 1970s. "I've spent 40 years in this business," James said, "and I've never seen anything like this. You've got guts, kid. Both of you. I just want my daughter safe," Marcus said. "She will be. Once this is public, you're safer than you've ever been. They can't touch you without proving everything we're publishing is true." At midnight, they uploaded everything. The Post's web servers strained under the load. The story went live at 6 a.m. Sunday, coordinated releases at The Guardian, The New York Times, and Der Spiegel. The headline was simple: "The Man in Black's Secret War, How Johnny Cash Worked with the CIA." By 8 a.m., it was the most read story in the world. Marcus watched the traffic numbers climb on James's computer. Millions of views, thousands of shares per minute. Major news networks scrambling to confirm the story, interviewing their own experts, analyzing the documents. By noon, a CIA spokesperson released a statement neither confirming nor denying, but promising a full investigation into the allegations. Cash's surviving family members released a statement expressing shock but supporting the truth being told. The National Archives announced they were reviewing the documents for potential historical preservation. By evening, Marcus's phone, the burner Sarah had given him, rang with offers. Book deals, movie rights, speaking engagements, news networks wanting exclusive interviews. The numbers were staggering. The documents themselves, now that they were public, had offers from museums and collectors reaching into 8 figures. "We've had 3 serious offers for your archive," Sarah said. "The Smithsonian, the Maichazitoisi, Country Music Hall of Fame, and a private collector. They're starting at $15 million and going up." Marcus sat on James's back porch, watching Sophie play with James's dog in the yard. The evening was warm, the fireflies just starting to come out. Everything felt surreal. "What happens now?" he asked. "You decide. The documents are yours legally. Roger left them to you. You can sell them, donate them, keep them. But Marcus, you need to think about what you want your story to be. You're not just the poor veteran who lucked into an inheritance. You're the whistleblower who exposed historical truth. That matters." Marcus thought about Roger's letter, about being punished for telling the truth, about Johnny Cash carrying secrets that ate him alive. "I want to do what's right," he said finally. 3 weeks later, Marcus stood in the Country Music Hall of Fame, watching as the Johnny Cash archive was unveiled to the public. He'd negotiated a deal donating 80% of the documents to the museum, keeping 20% to potentially sell for Sophie's future. The museum had paid $8 million for the donation, money that would be split between establishing a scholarship fund for veterans' children and securing Marcus's own future. Sophie stood next to him, wearing a new dress, her hair in braids, holding Mr. Trunks. She didn't fully understand what had happened, but she knew their lives had changed. "Is this because of Uncle Roger?" she asked. "Yeah, baby, because Uncle Roger trusted us to do the la suesta de Kimaime Massimo. Right thing." Derek had sent one email, brief and bitter. He'd lost his job after it came out. He'd been working with the people trying to suppress the story. He blamed Marcus for ruining his life. Marcus deleted the email without responding. The threats had stopped after publication. Sarah had been right. Once the truth was public, there was no point in silencing anyone. The CIA had launched an internal investigation that would probably take years and reveal nothing conclusive. Cash's legacy was complicated now, but also more complete. The man who'd sung about redemption had sought his own. Marcus used part of the money to finish his degree, starting classes at Georgetown in international relations. He wanted to understand the world that had used Cash, that had used him. Sarah had offered him a research position at the Post, helping investigate other historical cover-ups. He'd accepted. Sophie started at a private school with a music program. She was learning guitar. Her teacher said she had natural rhythm, a good ear for melody. When Marcus asked what songs she was learning, she said they were starting with Johnny Cash. "Walk the line," she told him, her small fingers practicing chord positions on her child-sized guitar. Marcus thought that was fitting. Walking the line between truth and loyalty, between safety and justice. He'd been walking that line his whole life. Now at least he was doing it in the light, not in shadows. At night sometimes he'd think about Roger, alone in the trailer, keeping secrets for 40 years. He'd think about Johnny Cash, performing while carrying the weight of classified operations, singing about prisoners while being imprisoned by his own knowledge. He'd think about all the ways truth gets buried and the cost of digging it up. But then he'd hear Sophie practicing guitar in the next room, her voice tentative but growing stronger, and he'd know they'd made the right choice. Some secrets deserve to stay buried, but some secrets, the kind that eat souls, need to see daylight, even when that light exposes uncomfortable truths, even when it costs everything you thought you knew. Marcus Riley had paid $500 for a rusty trailer and inherited a burden worth $175 million and the weight of historical truth. He'd chosen transparency over treasure, justice over comfort. And while his life would never be simple again, it was honest. Finally, completely honest. That was worth more than any fortune. Have you ever discovered a truth that changed everything you believed? Have you ever been forced to choose between staying silent and speaking up? Share your story in the comments below. And if this journey inspired you, subscribe for more stories of courage, justice, and the price of truth. Because sometimes the most valuable inheritance isn't money at all. It's the responsibility to tell the truth, no matter the cost.